بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين بعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين المنتجبين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. For the hastening and return of our Imam, please recite the salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
For his health and well-being, let's recite the second one louder.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Inshallah, each and every one of us becomes a true and close companion of that Imam. Let's recite the third one even louder.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the opportunity again to commemorate Muharram, and we hope that with all, each of us, so I'll say it for myself, with all my shortcomings, that He has given us, or given me, each of us, a lot of blessings, and we hope that He helps us preserve and allow this to be a fuel that will last us an entire year until the next month of Muharram, inshallah. What happened in Karbala was very difficult. The struggle reaching Karbala was very difficult. After Karbala was difficult, all the way to Sham, and from there to Karbala again, and then from there to Medina, and then in Medina it was still difficult. Say salawat, please.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Ever wonder why Sayyidah Zainab salamullahi alayha is not buried in Medina? Her grave is in Damascus. Why was she in Damascus? She left Damascus, she went back to Medina. Why is she buried in Damascus? That was a question for me. And then one of the ulama actually said that, no, she's buried in Medina. Then I did research. That scholar was a great teacher of mine. But I did research, it seems like she's not buried in Medina, no. Some say she was buried in Egypt, and there's a story behind that, and I'll explain that just a bit, just briefly. And then perhaps why it is said, and it seems like it is legitimate that she's buried outside of Damascus. And that is, the struggle didn't stop. The struggle did not stop. The lady Zainab salamullahi alayha, about a year after, was encouraging people to rise against the government, along with others that were involved. She didn't support the movement, but she supported, or she rallied people up against Yazid's tyranny. She didn't stop. They sent her to exile, to Egypt. That's where the story of her passing there and being buried there comes from. Then according to the account, it seems like even there, she taught, she spoke, and they couldn't take that there, so they had to take her closer. This is what they would usually do. They took her closer, which is the center of the government, Damascus, capital, where they had the least number of followers, and the propaganda machine was strongest. They worshipped the Umayyads pretty much at the time there. Things have changed. With the barakah of Sayyidah Zainab, things have changed. Damascus is different these days than it was then, right? Isn't it? It's very different. Anyway, I don't want to focus on that too much. The idea is, the struggle didn't stop. The difficulty didn't stop. We finish, we conclude after 12, 13 nights, and we get tired, like, okay, get back to life. But her struggle, the struggle of the Ahlul Bayt, the struggle of Imam Zainab, that didn't stop. Recite salawat, please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
What do you do with all this difficulty? How can you continue? How can you keep going? How do you do this? You get tired, don't you? I mean, we're people. We try, and this applies not just to the struggle of the Imam of our time, which I hope that that's something we are considering and we are trying to be part of. And once you are part of it, you will see that the same thing applies today. You will see that it just doesn't stop. Just look at the Islamic movement. Look at the revolution succeeded. What happened? Embargo started. What happened? They started getting people from different ethnic backgrounds, different parts of Iran. Tabriz one way, Khuzestan another way. The Kurds in a different way. They started spending money on them, the CIA did, to try to get them to rise against. They didn't have an issue with the Shah, but now that the revolution has succeeded. So that happened. Then the war, they unleashed Saddam. That ended. Another war. And now you just saw, it was I think yesterday, Trump's policies, these are his policies, they're going back to the 80s. The policy of just taking guns and shooting the general public, women and children. These are tactics they used in the 80s, early on after the revolution. It's not over. You keep going, something else happens. Something else happens. How can you keep going? Seeing all these difficulties. What is it in Sayyidah Zainab salamullahi alayha that she doesn't give up? All those years we try to just a small amount get us to understand that her mission or what she did for Islam did not start post Ashura. It was there beforehand. We talked about the movement of Imam Hussein, but Zainab was there before that as well. She's been active. We don't know exactly what she did, but she was involved in all of that. Before the Shahada of Imam Hassan, before the Shahada of Amir al-Mu'minin, she was involved the whole way, just like the Imams were involved. How can you keep going? What's the recipe? What are we supposed to do? Because we like these things, we like to be able to, but it's difficult when we give up. This is generally what's happened. Various struggles have taken place by good people, good intentions, but then eventually people give in. They just can't do it anymore. I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us become part of these movements so that we experience this, and inshallah this teaching of the Ahlul Bayt, this teaching of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Holy Quran, and the teaching of the Prophet, the teaching of the Imams, and I'll give you some examples, comes in handy, because if we don't, then we're going to give up. Recite salawat, please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
The Holy Prophet in the battle of Ahzab, or also known as Khandaq, which seems to have been the most difficult battle of the Prophet. Badr was not as difficult, and they won that war. Uhud was not as difficult as this one. They lost the battle, but it wasn't as severe as this one. This was a month-long struggle. The armies were lined up, meaning the army of Kufr, all the Ahzab had lined up for an entire month. the believers were dealing with. The other battles, it was like a day long. That was it. When you do sprints, okay, it's difficult, but it's over. You get over it. A marathon is something you gotta keep going and keep going and going and going. It's a very difficult battle. When it was starting in the initial stages of it, where the worry and the concern of the believers became very strong, I'm not sure if in these sessions we went over these verses. In Surah Al-Ahzab, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us of the believers that were with the Prophet and how they started doubting about everything. When they were digging the trench, and all these worries and concerns are there, when they're digging the trench, they hit a huge stone that no matter how they tried, many people try, they start hitting it with the equipment they had. They weren't able to take it out. It got so difficult, they called on the Prophet. He said, we've hit this roadblock in a sense. We can't get this out to be able to dig further. So the Prophet took it and he hit it hard, and there was a spark that was seen. Obviously, when there's a stone, you use something metal, you hit it hard, you can see a spark. What does the Prophet do in this instance?
Oh, my back.
Recite salawat, please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
The Prophet says, do you know what I saw in that spark? He said, Ya Rasulullah, what did you see? He said, I saw your victory over the Persian Empire. Then he hit it again, another spark. The Prophet says, I see your victory over the Roman Empire. So imagine, now we've passed that. We haven't experienced that, right? Where is this? This is Medina. They're barely holding on. It's under attack. All the tribes have come together. They want to destroy you. And then a spark is seen. The Prophet says, I see your victory. Over who? Not these Arabs, the Persian Empire, the Roman Empire. Which of course now we know is true. At the time, the believers what is the Prophet doing there? Now, in that case, he had knowledge of the unseen. We know that, but there's a general principle. We can't go and say, oh, I see in the spark, the victory over this or over that, because the way the Prophet did. We can say it, but in a different way. Because he saw it, he actually saw it. We can say it in a different way. I'll, inshallah, elaborate a little bit. What is this? This is giving encouragement based on faith. Giving hope in the future. You're struggling right now. And you're thinking, are we going to make it out of this? The Prophet said, don't worry about this. You're going to win over the Persians. You're going to win over the Romans. Don't give up hope. Continue. Be certain. 100% sure. You're going to win over them. We need these reminders. We need to remind ourselves, and we need these reminders in the community. We need these reminders in the community. When you continue, you hit fitnas, different fitnas happen, different pressures start mounting, you start doing things. When you do the right thing, they're not going to be happy, they'll give you trouble. Get out of one, the next one, the next one. It's easy to say, have hope. You know, you can just keep saying that, but how can you have hope? Sometimes our approach becomes very negative. All we can see is negativity. All we can see is shortcomings. All we can see is setbacks. All we can see is that the enemies are advancing and we're missing out. And I see this in various contexts. As much as we've seen otherwise in history, we just mentioned, you know, these are look back at history, and you'll see this. Look at the Quran, prophetic examples. Again, you'll see this. This is how it was. Keep going. And you'll see that victory. You'll see it. But you can say, let's have hope, let's continue. Let's have energy. But does it just come like that? What's the method that the Ahlul Bayt have used? What's the method? We just mentioned the Prophet's example. We're going to try to look at that example and see what the solution of the Ahlul Bayt is. And then look at the ahadith that we have from them and see that they have given that already. And see what the effect and benefit of that teaching is. Recite salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We get bogged down with the current situation we're in, and we don't see a way out, and that just makes our minds and our thought process very limited. We can't see beyond that. What the Prophet did in that instance was based on divine promises, which is the foundation, but speaking of the future, a definitive future. Telling you, stop looking down, stop looking at this, to think that this is a roadblock. Look ahead of you. There is a definitive promise, a future that you will get here or you will get there. Once you look up and you say, oh, we are going to get there, believing, knowing for a fact that you are going to get there, beyond a shadow of a doubt. You're like, I don't know how exactly I'm going to get out of this. I don't see that exactly. But once you zoom out, you look up and you start looking in the horizon, you look in the future, you look at what's definitely going to happen. Like, okay, I don't know how we're going to get this one. Inshallah, it'll come, but we are going to get there. One way or another. I don't know how. I don't know exactly how, but that's where we're going to get to. This is the technique. This is why the Prophet mentioned this in this context. People are wondering, are we going to make it through this? We're not going to make it through this. The Prophet is reminding them. And this is not even, the battle hasn't even started yet. Before it starts and people are worried and they start saying things, the Prophet starts injecting elements of hope. What element? How do you inject that? How do you get that? Learn the technique. You need this for your life, personal life, family life, and the community. Because you will hit difficult situations. How do you do that? Look at divine promises. The Prophet saw exactly that. We can't say, we're seeing something like that in this particular year or whatever. But based on divine teachings, we will definitely overcome this problem. Not this problem, something that's much greater. The Prophet, that's what he did, right? He didn't focus on something. He didn't say, I see that we're going to win this battle. Except forget about this. You guys are going to win over the Persians. You will win over the Romans. Divine promises. So the Prophet did that. Can we do that too? He injected hope in that way in his community. Can we do that too? We don't have knowledge of the unseen. The answer is yes. Yes. Why? Because the knowledge of the unseen is delivered to you. The Quran and Hadith are there. The divine promises are there. There's divine promises. You will win. You will overcome. With the conditions. What conditions? وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ وَيَصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Have taqwa and have patience. God will not allow your efforts to go in vain. Right? Learn from that and apply it, and you'll see. The leader does this a lot. We've seen this great scholar do this a lot. Difficulties come, he says, when they said this administration, who really shows you that there's serious trouble that this government is going through right now. Don't think that this is just, a lunatic coming to power here. No, that doesn't just happen in this country. There's a lot of things that are behind. So this is all planned. They know exactly what they're doing. This guy is there. But when you see someone like this in charge, then you know there's something seriously wrong. Anyhow, so the policy of taking the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. I just said, don't worry, most definitely, he's been repeating this as well. You will definitely be leading prayers, he said to a group of Syrian ulama who were visiting him. He said, you will see the day and you will pray in Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine. This is not going to work. Okay. Where did that come from? How did he have some unseen thing? Not necessarily. Divine promises. When you're seeing that believers are مَنْ يَتَّقِ وَيَصْبِرْ, for 70 plus years, the believers in Palestine have been doing their responsibility to resist. They've been doing that. And you've seen victory, right? You've already seen stages of that. They had to leave Gaza. In Lebanon, they had to leave South Lebanon. The conditions are there. God says, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ وَيَصْبِرْ, as individuals and as a community of believers. وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ وَيَصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And then look at the signs. The signs are telling when they're building walls on their borders to protect themselves. Okay, so they have realized, they have recognized that they are shrinking and they are losing and they're trying to defend themselves. And they will not succeed. Based on what? Divine promises. General divine promises in the Quran. But there's a promise that we have been given that's even more specific than that. And we are told to constantly remember that. And now in the context of this discussion, hopefully it will become a little more evident for us the purpose of all these ahadith. And that is the promise of the coming of the Imam and the establishment of the government of Allah on earth, the whole of it, the entire globe. None of these tyrants will be there. A very specific, definitive promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's worded in so many different ways. You have verses of the Holy Quran. وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. One of the references in the Holy Quran. Then the ahadith, more specifically, chapters in our books of hadith. What's that there for? Because when you're involved in the movement and you feel like, we're going to lose, we're not going to make it, we're suffering defeat, we lost this one or whatever. No, look up ahead of you, raise your head, look at the horizon, that's the horizon. Most definitely, the Imam of our time will establish that government. None of these tyrants will exist. So you do your share, keep going. The reminders of the coming of the Imam are for those who are working hard to accomplish that goal. And it's because it's difficult, and that's where we started. The lady Zainab was working towards that. I mentioned this in previous sessions. All of the Ahlul Bayt were working towards establishing the global government of justice. Every single one of the Imams. At that time, with those numbers, with those circumstances, yes. And every day they had to have concerns and they had to do what their share was. Even if 1400 years later, what keeps you going? What's the element that can keep giving you hope? Inject hope in you to allow you to continue. It is to leave the hardship that you are struggling with right now, mentally. Stop thinking about it momentarily. Look at the future. Look at the divine promises which are definite. They will definitely be true. When you look at that and you realize that, okay, I don't know exactly, I can't figure it out right now, but I'm not going to worry myself. The same God that will make that happen will get me through this, one way or another. And then you'll see it. Just keep going. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the tawfiq to be of those who are struggling for that, and inshallah, He helps us through the memory of the Imam of our time and the definite promises of his grand victory that is more and more imminent. The defeat of the kuffar is more and more imminent, brothers and sisters. They are struggling currently, and the Islamic movement is gaining momentum. It's gaining territory. More and more people are on board. More and more people are united, understanding a vision that unites all people who understand it, regardless of ethnic background, language, geography, and so on. That tells us it's imminent. It's getting closer and closer. Hopefully we become part of that, and inshallah with these reminders we're able to continue and not allow these difficulties stop us from making progress, inshallah.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Sallallahu alayk ya أيها الشهيد بكربلاء عطشانا May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you. My beloved Holy Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you. My beloved Imam al-Hussein. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you. My beloved oppressed Imam. The Imam that was slaughtered by the shore يمثست روحي لك الفداء يا مولاي. Today was the third day after Ashura. It appears these days are the days of the burial of Imam al-Hussein and his family, the martyrs of Karbala. For 3 days, the noble bodies of the Shuhada were left uncovered under the sun. Ya Abu Abdullah, Ya Madlum. It says Banu Asad came to the area, finding the bodies, the remains of the Shuhada, the headless bodies of the Shuhada. They wanted to bury, they could tell, different signs were there. These are noble bodies. They knew there was a battle in here between Hussein and his companions and their foes. But how do we identify these bodies? They probably also didn't know an imam can only be buried by an imam. While they were wondering, they saw a man coming to them. Ali ibn al-Husayn, Imam Zainul Abidin, miraculously, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought him to Karbala. He already sent the help, Banu Asad, there to bury the bodies. I don't know how difficult it was for Imam al-Sajjad, Ruhi lahu al-Fida, to identify Imam al-Husayn's body, to see what had happened to him on the day of Ashura. Because of his illness, he probably was not able to actually observe what happened to his father. Now he's seeing it for himself. He's having help preparing the body, who's been left here without a kafan, without any dress, covering it, digging a grave. He has help there. While they're involved, probably Banu Asad are gathering the bodies. If you've been to Karbala, there's a mass grave of the Shuhada. They gathered them all. I don't know how they were able to find the remains of Ali al-Asghar. Imam al-Hussein, Ali al-Asghar, Ali al-Akbar were buried near each other. They're all contained in the Dari. The Shuhada separately, Habib is buried separately. Probably when Imam Zainul Abidin was busy with Imam al-Hussein and Banu Asad were trying to gather all the Shuhada, some wandered a bit further. They saw a body that they could not collect to bring back. They came to Imam Zainul Abidin. There's a body at a distance. It's too difficult to bring the pieces. Imam Zainul Abidin says, leave it, that's my uncle Abbas. Abbas is buried at a distance from Imam al-Hussein. روحي لكم الفداء. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها بك يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك وعلى محبة أوليائك. O Allah, hasten the return of our Imam. Help us become true and close companions of His. O Allah, assist those who are helping your cause, helping the cause of the Imam of our time, especially those putting their lives on the line for him. Ya Allah, protect our ulama, our maraja, who are on the front lines of defending Islam in so many different ways, and especially our leader. Ya Allah, forgive us all of our sins, forgive our parents, our grandparents, our relatives, all believers, those who are alive, those who left this world. Ya Allah, by the right of the Imam of our time, we ask you to relieve all the people of the world of the oppression they're facing. Bin Nabi wa alih, rahimallah man qara'a al-fatihata ma'a as-salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.